Tonight, I'm Cynthia Ng. Status quo remains for face mask mandate. You will still get fined when caught without one in public. And man who instigated depot riot identified. More on that coming up. Close contacts of COVID-19 positive cases will not need to undergo mandatory quarantine, regardless of vaccination status, starting from tomorrow. In a Twitter post today, the Health Ministry explained close contacts who show symptoms of COVID-19 infection are only encouraged to quarantine and to perform an antigen rapid self-test on the day, followed by another test on the third day after. It said that if the test result is negative and symptoms have improved, the individual may end quarantine but practice preventive measures. For those who are asymptomatic, they can skip the quarantine and COVID-19 tests entirely, but should still practice the preventive measures for at least 5 days after exposure. BUKIT AMAN today denied that the police would no longer enforce the face mask mandate. BUKIT AMAN Management Director Dato' Zaini Jas said the status quo remains and police will continue to issue fines to those who do not wear masks in public. This comes after a copy of an internal circular ordering all police formations in the country to cease issuing compounds against those not wearing face masks went viral on social media. It was understood that the document dated April 20th has been retracted. Police have identified the mastermind behind the riot incident at the immigration depot in ROLLOUT on Wednesday. Kedah Criminal Investigation Department Chief Dato' G. Suresh Kumar said the suspect in his 30s was the one who influenced others to riot that led to a mass breakout of over 500 detainees. He and over 100 other escapees are still at large.
Yang kita percaya menjadi ketua ni, dia ni mungkin dah agak lama sedikit dalam tahanan. Okey, tetapi kita masih belum tangkap dia. Sebab dia telah meloloskan diri dan selagi kita tak dapat untuk dapatkan dia punya statement, dan kalau apa-apa yang kita buat sekarang ni adalah lebih kepada andaian.
Suresh also confirmed that police were investigating claims that the riot was sparked by the depot management's failure to provide medical treatment to a detainee, which led to his death. He confirmed that there was a death involving a detainee in his 30s late at night, hours before the early morning rioting took place. About 4:30 a.m. on Wednesday, some 528 Rohingya detainees broke out from the detention center after staging a protest. 10 of them died as they were struck by vehicles while attempting to cross a highway. The government must immediately investigate the riot and breakout of Rohingya detainees from the immigration depot in ROLLOUT. UMNO Vice President Datuk Sri Khalid Nordin said that such incidents are not new and added that the repeated incidents could be due to several reasons, including overcrowding and limited resources at detention facilities. In a statement, Khalid said prolonged detainment of Rohingya refugees without any explanation or plans for their future is against human rights. It is also a waste of the Rakyat's money, as keeping them in detention involves public funds. His statement echoes calls from NGOs and rights groups like the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia Suhakam. It urged for an independent probe on the incident and the current status of detainees at detention centres, as they were currently caught in a limbo. The Rohingya in Malaysia are stateless refugees and asylum seekers. The Johor government will set up a select committee to look into ways of further empowering the State Legislative Assembly. According to Menteri Besar Dato' On Hafiz Ghazi, the discussions will involve both leaders from the state government and opposition. On Hafiz said the state government will also be focusing on implementing an anti-party hopping law to prevent politicians from switching parties. Earlier during the State Assembly sitting, UMNO Supreme Council member Datuk Dr. Muhammad Puat Zakashi was appointed as the new speaker. The sitting also saw the swearing-in ceremony for all 56 assemblymen following the Johor election last month. Barisan Nasional managed to recapture Johor with a landslide victory in the state election by winning 40 out of the 56 seats. Former Chief Secretary to the government Tan Sri Ali Hamzah has died today at the Dublin Hospital in Ireland. He was 66 years old. His passing was confirmed by incumbent Chief Secretary Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali. Ali served as Malaysia's 13th Chief Secretary from June 2012 to August 2018. He first joined the Administrative and Diplomatic Service in 1981 and went on to serve in various departments and ministries. His illustrious career in the civil service covered roles in the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Transport and the Economic Planning Unit, among others. He leaves behind his wife Puan Sri Rohani Abdullah and 4 children. The government will push ahead the 5G rollout through Digital National Berhad (DNB) as Single Wholesale Network (SWN). There were claims that this decision was made without prior engagement or with the public or stakeholders. We speak to IDEA's Acting Director of Research, Dr. Juwita Muhammad, on whether this SWN model is our best option.
Because of backlash, this was brought up to the cabinet. But then again, the tweakings was that okay, yes, we will still go ahead with the single wholesale network framework with DNB as the main player. But then again, mobile network operators have the capacity to buy up to 70% of DNB's shares in the next couple of years or so. But then again, we still don't know if what are the mechanisms, what are the processes that the MNOs need to go through. Again, this was just an announcement, but on the implementation side, how does it really work on the ground? What is the deadline for acquiring these DNB shares, for how long, and within what period? So this was not really elaborated.
She said the lack in transparency in implementing the single wholesale network will impact Malaysia's attractiveness to foreign investors.
Opacity of DNB's appointment and also government involvement in the market works against the notion of competitive neutrality. So again, this is something that IDEAs have been working on when we look at competition on the ground. Among GLCs in a given sector, this again will affect the market attractiveness of a given sector, impacting upon Malaysia's attractiveness as an investment destination and trade partner in the area of communications, telecommunication, as well as data services. So again, IDEAs believe that there must be transparency as to the process through which the government-owned single wholesale network model was decided upon. Because again, at the end of the day, it goes back to public funding. And again, it goes back to taxpayers' money. So again, there needs to be transparency and there needs to be accountability.
We'll continue after the break. Stay with us.
Insan yang berjaya juga insan seperti kita. Didorong ke azaman demi mencapai cita-cita mereka. Super. Melengkapkan juadah anda.
Kita sering menyangka rumah kita tentunya bersih, namun debu-debu yang tersembunyi tetap ada. Dyson V12 Detect Slim dengan teknologi laser pengesan debu memerangkap zarah yang tidak boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar. Kuasa sedotan menyesuaikan diri secara automatik dan penapisan keseluruhan mesin memerangkap habuk halus, membersihkan tempat yang sukar dicapai dan memberikan anda bukti saintifik. Beraya di rumah yang lebih bersih bersama Dyson. Nikmati pelan ansuran faedah 0% dari Dyson.
Welcome back. Chinese President Xi Jinping said his government supports talks to resolve international disputes, but opposes the use of unilateral sanctions. He also warned that economic decoupling and pressure tactics, such as severing supply chains, would not work to stop a war. Xi made those comments in a televised speech at the BOA Forum for Asia, without directly mentioning the West's punitive actions against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. Xi called for stronger coordination between major economies to prevent severe and negative spillover effects from policy decisions and help stabilize the global supply chain. China had repeatedly criticized Western sanctions against Russia. While China has refused to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it has also been careful not to provide assistance to Moscow that could lead to sanctions being imposed on Beijing. Chinese authorities have released their initial report into the China Eastern Airlines plane crash last month, but said they have not found the cause of the crash that left 132 people dead. Investigators are still analyzing data from the 2 black boxes on the Boeing jet, but warned that they were heavily damaged. In the report, Chinese Civil Aviation Administration said no abnormalities had been found in the plane, its flight crew, or external elements such as bad weather. The black boxes, a cockpit voice recorder and a flight data tracker are being analyzed at an American lab with the help of U.S. government investigators. China Eastern Flight MU5735 was traveling from Kunming to Guangzhou on March 21st when it suddenly plunged from cruising altitude and crashed into a mountain in southern China. It is the country's worst air crash disaster in decades. Chinese investigators say a final report could take a year or more to complete. Hong Kong reopened most of its businesses today as authorities relaxed some of the world's most stringent COVID-19 restrictions. Gyms, beauty parlors, theme parks and cinemas reopened for the first time in more than 4 months, while dining hours are extended and bigger group gatherings allowed. Many schools have also resumed in-person learning after months of online classes. The easing comes as the number of daily infections dropped below 1,000 from a peak of more than 70,000 in early March. Many struggled with Hong Kong's strict zero COVID-19 policy, similar to mainland China. Thousands of people have fled the city since the government reimposed COVID-19 measures in January. The city's reputation as a global financial hub had suffered a major blow as its borders have been effectively sealed since 2020. Israel carried out air raids in central Gaza Strip before dawn today. This was its second attack this week. Israel military said its fighter jets attacked an underground complex used to produce rocket engines. There were no immediate reports of casualties. Videos circulating on social media showed the attacks had damaged several homes, while witnesses say the rockets hit the Al-Burej refugee camp in central Gaza. Earlier in the night, a rocket fired from Gaza struck southern Israel, damaging a house. No injuries were reported. Israel military said 4 more rockets were also fired from Gaza following its raids, but were intercepted by air defense systems. MySejahtera has often been at the center of concerns around data and privacy, ownership and efficacy in shaping policy. Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests if the time has come to re-evaluate the need for a COVID-19 surveillance app. That's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. My name is Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.